So I just want to point out to you that your homework that is due yesterday, the 1.3 and 1.4, actually I move it that is due today, okay? So your online homework that's supposed to due last night, 1.3 and 1.4 is being moved to tonight because we're gonna go through some homework question here. So, so if you have any homework questions, you can ask me. So your online homework 1.3 and 1.4 is due tonight. So make sure you guys know that. So you still have, I just changed the due date. So you can go ahead and finish it off. And if you have any questions, you can ask me now. I got a few questions we go over in 1.3 and 1.4. 1.5 and 1.7 online homework. You only got two more left. Today we go over on 5, Thursday we go on 7. This homework is due on Thursday. Okay, so make sure you guys know that 1.5 and 1.7 online homework is due on this coming Thursday. So you got you have 4 homework due this week. So it's a lot because this is the last week we have it. This is the last week that we're gonna have class. Then your final is this Friday at noon. Okay, which is August the 14th. So your final is this Friday at noon at August 14th, and it will end at Saturday, which is is due on the Saturday. I think it's 15. Yes, August 15 by noon. Okay, at noon. So the final, make sure you do. Make sure you double check. Make sure you again same thing as what your midterm is. I will send it to you to your email address, your college email address. I'll post in D12. What you need to do is print out or write on papers, scan it, and then email it back to me by August 15th, Saturday at noon. Okay, so it's the same thing. It will cover chapter 1. Okay, it will cover chapter 1. So your finals will be covering chapter 1, except for the one that we skip. I think we skip because we do 1, 4, 1, 5. I think we skip 1, 6, and 1, 8. Okay. So, so you do not need to worry about 1, 6, and 1, 8. So we do the whole entire chapter 1 except 1, 6, and 1, 8. This is the announcement I want to make. So make sure you guys know that your final is coming up. And then this is the last of class. So anyone have any questions for me on your online homework 1, 3, and 1, 4? Because today we do 1, 5. Anyone have any questions? Before I continue with 1, 3, and 1, 4 here. So no questions. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to go through some questions homework now. So 1.3. I have students asking me to do question number 30. Okay. So I'm going to show you how to do question number 30. Which is this one. Okay. So so this question wants us to figure out that question 30. 100% concentration is being mixed with a 30% to obtain 65 gallons of mixture with a concentration of 75%. How much of 100% concentration do you need? Round your answer in 1 decimals. So how do we do this question number 30 on 1.3 is firstly is you have to use table to do this. So the asking for, we got 2 mixture, 100%, and you mix it with 30%, and you get a 75% concentration. This is a mixture problem. So mostly mixture problems, you have to use a table. Okay, mixture problems, you have to use a table. So the table in this case is, we're gonna talk about 3 types. One is the percent, or yep, this is the percent of a concentration. So we got a 100% concentration, and you mix it with 30% concentration. And this is your mixture. The last one is your mixture. And you need to get a 75% mixture in this case. Okay, those who just came in, I actually postponed your homework till tonight. So it's actually due last night, so it's actually due tonight by midnight. So I'm going through 1.3 question 30 here, so you can at least can go home and finish this one up. So amount. Since this question is asking for how much 100% concentration is needed, so we do not know the amount in this case. So this is X. This is the 100% amount of concentration that we need to figure out. but they tell us that on the 75% one, 65 gallons total. So 65 gallons in this case. So in this case, in order for us to do the 31, you have to, the amount for 31 is you take the 65 minus X. The reason why this is 65 minus X is because if you add these two up, you will get a total of 65. So in order for us to figure out what is this, you need to subtract it from X in this case. Okay, 39. Yep, I'm going through that one too, Magida. Yep, yep. And then finally, you need to multiply here. Okay, you need to multiply in this case. So what you need to do in this case is you multiply 100 times X, which is 100X. This one you have to distribute 30 times 65 minus X. And then the bottom one is 75 times 765. So you multiply everything. So this is the table how you fill up. And then what you need to do is the equation comes from the last part here. This is the equation. And the equation says if you add these two up, the first two rows together, you will get the third row. So this equation will give us 100X plus, I'm going to distribute the 30 inside here. So 30 times 65, that will give me 1,950. 1,950. And then 30 minus X is 30X. Subtract 30X. And then this is 75 times 65. 4,875. So yes, you need a calculator to do this kind of work because they are big number here. So the rest, I think is up to you. The rest is you finish this question 30. This is not that tough now. So what you need to do is you just solve for X. And once you get your X, that is your answer. Okay. So, so this is how we do question number 30 for this 1.3. So now we will talk about 1.4, question number 35. Okay. 1.4, question number 35, which is this one. And Magida is asking the same question, right? I think. Let me see. 39. Yep, I'll do 39 next. Okay. So this is question number 35 on this section here. So so on question 35, this is asking us a metabolic rate of exothermic organism increases by increasing temperature with a certain range. Experiment therefore oxygen consumption C of a beetle of a certain temperature can be approximating this model. So this is the model in this case. So question A is asking us is where X in this case is your temperature in degrees Celsius, and C in this case is the oxygen consumption. Okay. So the oxygen consumption is 185 microliter per gram per hour. What is the temperature? Okay. So this is your C. So what you need to do here is you have to per gram per hour. Okay, this is all good. So so we're gonna put 185 into your C. So you have an equation of 185 equals to 0.45 x squared minus 1.65 x plus 50.75. So this is definitely, you have to use the quadratic formula, but the quadratic formula states that this has to be equal to 0. So what do? Is I subtract 185 on both sides. So this will become 0. So you still have the 0.45 x squared. And you still have the negative 1.65 x. And what you need to do next is take out your calculator and subtract this. 50.75 take away 185. So this will give me a negative 134.25. So now you have to use your quadratic formula. So this 0.45 will be your A. negative 1.65 will be your B, and negative 134.25 will be your C. So the quadratic formula, which I told you guys, you have to memorize this until you're done with your math classes. I can tell you that. So it's negative B. B in this case is negative 1.645. So that negative will become positive. Plus, minus. Next, you have to square the negative 1.645. So it's 1.645 times 1.645. So I'm using my calculator. So I'm going to square it. So that will give me 2. Cannot round this. Do not round this number, because once you round this number, everything is wrong. Okay. So this is all decimal, so you need a calculator. 4AC minus 4AC. 4A is 0.45. And C in this case is negative 134.25. This is a very long one, but you have to use your calculator. All over by 2A, so 2 times 0.45. So now you need to use the calculator to figure all this inside the square root. Okay, so I got the 27.225 here. So I have to minus 4 parentheses 0. Let me just do that. Nope. I'm gonna do 2.7225 minus 4 times 0.45 times 1.134.25 negative. See what they have. So this came out to be 244.37, and then you take the square root of it. Square root. So this is actually 15 point something. So x in this case will give us 1.65 plus minus 15.63 all over by 0.9. 0.45 times 2 is 0.9. So now since this question is only, if you look at your x can only be between 10 and 25. So the negative here is ignored. The reason why that your negative here is ignored is because your x here has to be between 10 and 25. So what you do is you take this number plus 1.65 and then divide this with 0.9. So your answer in this case will be 19.20, something like that. Okay, so this is how we do question A. Question B is, when the air temperature increased from 13 to 25 degrees Celsius, the oxygen is increased by approximately what factor? So how do we do question B here? Question B in this case, you have to plug in 13 degrees into X, 25 degrees into your X, and then figure out what is your C, your oxygen consumption, and then you figure out what is the factor. Now the meaning of the factor in this case means how much more. So you have to divide that. Okay, factor is divide. So the first thing we do here is you substitute 13 into the equation here. So C in this case is 0.45 times 13x, 13 squared, and then minus 1.65 times 13, and then plus 50.75. So so mostly everything here is calculator based here. So so I'm going to use my calculator. So 13 squared times with 0.45. So this is, and then you subtract this from 1.65 times 13, and then you add it with 50.75. So this came out to be 105.35. And then you do the same thing for 25. So you change all this to 25. and you will get an answer here. So 25, oh, sorry, 25 square times 0.45, and then you minus 1.65 times with 25, and then you plus 50.75. So this came out to be 209.75. So the question is asking is what is the factor? So in order for us to figure out the factor in this case, you dividing, okay? So you divide, since it's increasing, so you divide the biggest one from the smallest one. So it's 209.75 divided by 105.35. And you will get your factor. So I'm going to divide this with 105.35. And the factor in this case is around 2.76. So this is the factor in this is your answer in this case. So so make sure you guys, this is not too difficult to do 35. The only difficult part is a lot of calculation. You need a lot of decimals. You need calculator for this case. Okay. And the last one we're going to talk about here is 39. So question number 39 here is telling us that you have a demand equation for the product is given us by P70 minus 0.004x, where P in this case is a price per unit and X is a unit sold. The total revenue for X is given us by X times P, which is X times all these things, 7 minus 0.004x. So this is a revenue equation. So how many units must be sold to produce a revenue of 180,000? And you got two answers. So you have to, so how do we do this question number 39 here? Is this 180,000 is your revenue, your R. So you plug that in there. So you will get 180,000 equals to, I'm going to distribute my X into the parentheses. So I got 70X and then minus 0.0030, 4x square. Okay, so so I distribute my X, and then because this is a quadratic, I need to use a quadratic formula. So I will have to put it in a standard form. So I'm gonna move all this to the other side. And I put the highest power first, standard form. So I put 0.0004x squared first. Because it's negative, become positive. This will become negative 70x. This is still 180,000 positive. And now this is all equals to 0. So what do I need here is to use my quadratic formula. So negative, this is your A, 0.004. This is your B, negative 70. And this is your C, 180,000. Okay. So the formula says negative B. So negative B means negative 7, the negative of negative 70. So it's positive 70. Plus minus square root of negative 70 square. So you take 70 square in this case, the negative will gone. So you get 4,900. Minus 4 times A. A is that very small decimal, 0.0004. And then times C, which is the big number, 180,000. And this is all over by 2A, 2 times 0.0004, small number. So now what we do, the same thing when you do quadratic formula is use your calculator to figure this one out. So I got the 4,900 here. So I subtract 4 times 0.0004 times 180,000, 180,000. So this is 4,612. And I'm going to take the square root of it. So this is when you take the square root of this is come up to be 67.91. So the reason why that you got two answers here is because they got plus and minus. So what you need to do here is you have to take the 70 plus this number, 67.91, divided by 0.0008. And then the other answer is you do the same thing, but you have to subtract it. Okay. So, so what you do here is, again, calculator, add 70 to it. And then you divide this by 0.0008. So one of these answer is 172,380. What's the answer they want you to round? They want the whole number. So whole number in this case, not 80. So it's going to be 90 in this case. Okay, because that's close to it. And then the other one is this number, 70 minus 67.91. And then you divide this by 0.0008. So this is close to 2,613. But since I need to do something with this because this number I rounded, so that's why your answer is a bit off. So let me do one that is not rounded, see how different is it, because I scared it might be different. 70 minus square root of 4612. That's a square root. Yep. 70 minus that. And then you divide this by 0.0008. See how it's different. 261. Yep. So this is wrong. So this is actually is not correct. This should be 2610. So what I want to tell you here, class, is that when you guys do this question, make sure that this number you cannot round. No round. Because once you round your answer, that's the reason why you get wrong. A lot of students get it wrong because they round it to 67.91 and your answer will be off. Like last time I get 2613 when I round it. When I don't round it, I got 26110. 26110 is the correct answer. So please do not round it. So make sure you guys understand this. This is very important. You guys all right here so far? Anyone have any questions for me? Anyone have any questions for me before I continue with today's class? All right, so yes, Devin, on the test, you also do the same thing. You do not round, and you only round at the very end. So this is not just my class, this is for the future. If you're going to college algebra and so on, trig and calculus, you do not round here. You never round answers. You only round your answers at the end all the time. You only round your answers here. You don't round your answers anywhere because the more rounding you got, the more error you get and you get off a lot. So that's why they mark you wrong. So please don't round your answer here, okay? Until the end, then you round. Good. All right, so we're gonna talk about 1.5 today. So we're talking about complex number. So this complex number is, so what we'll talk about what complex number is. So complex numbers can be written down in the form of a plus bi. This is what we call as complex number, where a in this case is the real number and the bi is the imaginary number, okay? And we call this as a standard form, okay, the a plus bi. One important thing about complex number is always have an I on it. So what is I stands for? I stands for the square root of -1. So when you square the I square, you will get -1 in this case. So make sure you guys understand last time when you guys did square root, if you remember last time when you have a square root and if you have a negative something, a number in there, this one we say do not exist, right? The reason why do not exist is because of a negative. But now if you have a square root of a number, let's say 9, this is no longer does not exist. This is imaginary. So what happened is that you take the -1 out. So -1 times 9 is -9. And then what happened is this will give I to me because the definitions of I is square root of -1 and root of 9 is 3. So this is actually is 3i, okay? And you notice how I write my I form. My I form I always write as cursive. I try not to write as this because it looks like number 1. So I always write the I form as a cursive form so that I know that that's complex. Otherwise, you will look like this. Those who have sloppy handwriting, I was thinking this 31. Okay, so just want to point out to you that I write cursive for I in this case. So what happens if your B is 0? So if your B is 0, you will get, when B is equal to 0, you only get A. So you only have the real number piece, okay? And then if you got the A plus BI, we call it the imaginary numbers. And if you have a BI form, we call it as pure imaginary number. So in this case that, if I say that if I just got 7, this is what I call as real number. And then when I put 7 plus 4i, this is what we call as imaginary number or complex number. But if you have just 4i by itself, that means without the 7, we call it as the pure imaginary numbers. Okay, so those are the definitions of complex number here. What kind of operations can we perform with complex number? We can add them, we can subtract them, so we can multiply it, and we can divide it. Okay, so we do the 4 basic operation: add, subtract, multiply, divide. So to add and subtract, you just combine like terms. This is very easy. So so you combine the the real part, the A and like C, A and C here. So you combine them, and then you combine the imaginary part, the B and D. Okay. Watch out for subtract. Make sure you distribute your subtraction in this case. Okay. So make sure you distribute your subtraction here. Okay. So and then after that, do the same thing. Combine like terms. Okay. For multiplying, you FOI it. I think you guys know how to FOI. Make sure you understand when you FOI something. Last time we got x squared. We don't have x squared. We have I squared. So I squared in this case is -1. Okay, that is the meaning of just how we do the multiply. Okay, you will still get A plus BI at the end. I will show it to you some examples. Conjugates. What is conjugate? Conjugate is where you take the your sign is changed. Okay, so example is A plus BI. The conjugate is A minus BI. Okay, so if I give you 4i, the conjugate of 4i is -4i. Okay, if I give you 7, the conjugate for 7 is 7. If I give you 7 plus 4i, the conjugate is 7 minus 4i. So what do you know about this conjugate in this case is that your middle term will change, but your first term is still the same sign, don't change. Okay, so the only change part is your middle term. This is a conjugate. Why you need to learn your conjugate here is because of this. When you have conjugate, when you multiply this conjugate, you get real numbers. So when you multiply A plus BI and A minus BI, the middle term will cancel out. You only get A squared plus B squared, and this is a real number. Real number means it doesn't have any I on it. Okay. So, so in order for us to divide this, we have to rationalize the denominator. I will teach you how to rationalize the denominator. I think you did it one time in chapter P something, P3 or P4, something like that. Okay. And then complex solution of quadratic equations. So last time when you do the quadratic equation, like what we just do, -b plus minus square of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, you figure out that this square root that we have in the quadratic formula is always positive in the previous section, but in this section you find out that this will become negative. Okay, this number will become negative, so you have to change it to I form. Okay. So you find out that when you do a quadratic formula equation in this case, you find out that you will get a negative root A in this case. So make sure that you take the negative root out and make it become I form. Okay. So let's take a look at some homework problems so you can know what to do with this section 1.5 here. Okay. So anyone have any questions so far with the complex number? Anyone have any questions? Okay, so like this is very easy. You find the real A, B such that the equation is true. So if you have A plus B, 5 plus 6, then A in this case is 5, B in this case is 6. Very easy. Okay, So this is easy part. But for the next question, you have to solve it. So for the question 5, you just solve this. And how do we solve question 5 in this case is you just need to do the first one, a plus 1 is equals to 3. And where I get the 3 from, the 3 came from this one. And then you solve for a. And then b minus 2 is 6. This is b minus 2 and the 6 because that is your I term. And the first one is your real term. And then you solve for b, and then that you put your answer in this case. Okay? It's not too difficult in the first few ones. Next question is number 6. Number 6 is asking us by what is 3 plus square root of negative 16. So as you know that we cannot have a negative, so this will came out to be 4i. 16 is square root of 16 is 4, square root of negative 1 is I. So your answer in this case will be 3 plus 4i. So this is how you put this down. Now I want to point out to you when you put your I form, you cannot use the letter I here. I think they might mark you wrong. Let me see if they mark you wrong if they use the letter I in your keyboard. Sometimes they're very picky. Yep, okay, all right, they mark you right. So yes, then you can use the letter I in this case, okay? So make sure it's a lowercase I in this case. You guys all right so far here? Anyone have any questions with this? Anyone? So far so good? This is not too bad, and the end is a bit tough, but we'll be fine here. Then next one is 5 minus negative square of negative 63. Now last time on question 6, this is a perfect square. So that's good, it's 4i. But unfortunately, 63 is not a perfect square. 64 is a perfect square. So what you need to do is you have to break it down. So this will give me I. So the negative will give you I. So now you need to break 63 down. So can someone tell me what times what is 63? Anyone? What times what is 63? You guys should know this. Class? So what times what is 63 in this case? You guys there? Devin, Magida, Adam, Patterson? Guys, so that will, yep, 7 and 9. So, and 9 is a perfect square of 3. So how do we write this is we have the 5, the one in front, minus the 3 and the I is a perfect square. So we can write that outside. And the one that stays inside is 7. So this is square root of 7. So this is how we write, this is how we do question number 7. Your answer in this case is 5 minus 3i root 7. And these are not like terms, so don't say this is 2. 5 minus 3, oh, 5 minus 2i root 7. That is wrong, okay? So that is not how you do that. Same thing happens to question number 9. You just need to break 54 down and then put the I up front, like what we just did over here. Question 10, so we're gonna do question 10 here. Negative 6i plus I squared. Now this question wants us to write this in a standard form. Standard form means your answer has to be a plus bi. Now this is not standard form because you got I squared. So make sure you know this. I squared in this case is the same as negative 1. So you got negative 6i minus 1. And I want to point out to you that I'm going to try this and put it on and see if they mark you right or wrong. I was thinking it will mark you wrong. Negative 6i minus 1. Let me see if it's right or wrong. Nope, they mark you right. Okay. Some of the homework questions, if they mark you, this is right. If they mark you wrong, you just need to interchange these two numbers because in the standard form, usually the real number comes first and then the imaginary number. So if you, since this is correct, so this is good, this is also good. So I don't know how picky your online homework is. So make sure you guys know that if you write this one, they mark you wrong, just switch them around, okay? Question number 11 is actually is not too difficult. You can do that. Oh, let's do the next one. So the next one that we have here is doing operation. So performing the operation, so we did add, subtract, multiply, or divide. So like question number, let's do 13 here, it's more difficult. So when you subtract, you need to distribute your negative. So you get 2 plus 2i, and then you distribute your negative, you got negative 8 minus 13i. And what you need to do here is you just need to combine like terms. So 2 and negative 8 are like terms. So you get negative 6. And then 2i minus 13i, they are like terms. This is negative 11i. So this is your answer in this case. So it's very easy to do because you just need to combine like terms. If you have fractions like this, you just need to combine like terms and find the LCDs. But I'm going to do number 14. This is a tough one. So you will get the good news about this is because it's a plus, so minus sign, you have to distribute the negative to the 8 and 13i that we did in 13. But if you have plus, you just drop all your parentheses. So you get negative 3 plus square root of negative 8 plus 7 minus square root of negative 54. Now, last time, if you look at the previous example we did, they all already have an I term, but this question doesn't have I terms because you need to break it down. So it's very easy to tell that this have I terms, you're good to go, you need to break it down. You can tell that this one doesn't have I term. If that doesn't have I term, means you have to break it down. So the negative here, the negative 8 in the negative will become I in this case. So now what you need to do is you have to break the square root of 8 down. Does anyone know what its root 8 is? Anyone? Root 8? Break down root 8. And you do the same thing for this case. Anyone know what the square root of 8 is when you break it down? Anyone? You guys are all not paying attention today. So square root of 8 in this case, yep, 2 root 2. Yes, that's correct. Now, some students ask me about where should I put my I. I will recommend you to put your I right in between your root and your, like that, okay? So this is how we do that negative root 8, square root of negative root 8. So same thing happens to root of negative 54, the I for negative. So 54 in this case is 9 times 6. Because 9 times 6 is 54, yep. Yep. So you so 9 is a perfect square of 3. Yep, very good. So it's 3i root 6. Okay, very good. So now what we do here is you combine like terms. So these two terms are negative 3 and 7 are alike. So you can combine it to become 4. But unfortunately that the other two terms that we just did, they are not like terms. The reason why they're not like terms is because this is root 2, this is root 6. They are not like terms. If they are like terms, they have to be root 2, or root 6, root 6. So since they are not like terms, you just need to write it down again. So 2i root 2 minus, don't forget there's a minus sign here, 3i root 6. Okay, so this is your answer for question number 14. If you don't see I, you have to break it down. Okay, good, you guys, Magida is good. Now, do not, this is something that students make mistake in my finals, is they don't watch the sign carefully. So Devin, pay attention here. I know you did that in your previous test. This is a plus sign here. This is a plus sign. This is a minus sign, means you are adding and subtracting. But if you look at question 16, you don't see a sign in here. This is multiplication. This is FOIL. So I got students foiling on number 13, and I got students adding or subtracting on number 16. So make sure you guys know the difference between when you multiply or when you add or subtract. Because if you do the wrong operation, everything is wrong. So make sure you guys know this. This is very important. Don't do this in your finals. Okay. So this is a multiplication. So you have to FOIL. Question 16. So 6 times 3, you get 18. 6 times negative 2i is negative 12i. And then 3i, negative 3i times 3 is negative 9i. And then negative 3i times negative 2i. Negative 3 times negative 2 is positive 6. And you got I squared. because I times I is I squared. But do not forget that I squared in this case give us -1. So that makes this become -6, because -6 times -1, positive 6 times -1 is a -6. So what you do next here is you combine like terms, and that's your answer. So 18 and -6 are like terms. You can combine, become 12. These two terms are like terms, 12, -12i and 9i. So when you combine it, become 21i. So this is your answer for question number 16, where how you FOIL it. Same thing happens to question number 17. You just distribute it, and then make sure you change all your I squared to become -1, otherwise you get it wrong. Okay, we're gonna do number 18 here. So for question number 18, you just, this is also foiling, but the good news is they are conjugate. What's the meaning of conjugate? They are exactly the same thing. The only difference here is the sign, the middle sign. One of them is plus, one of them is minus. So, and what happens when you multiply by the conjugate? When you FOIL this, your middle term will cancel out. So you do not need to do the inside and the outside. You just need to do the first and the last. So this is what happens when you do conjugate. Okay, so this is conjugate. So the first one we have is square root of 3 times square root of 3, which will give us square root of 9, which is a perfect square of 3. Okay, and then we have 7i times -7i, so you will get -49i squared. And again, as I just bring up about I squared in this case give you -1. So this will give me -49 times -1 is positive 49. So what we have in this case is 3 plus 49. This is what we have. 3 came from the first one, 49 came from the last one, and that your final answer in this case is 52. So I want to point out to you again, when you FOIL a conjugate, you get a number without I. Okay, so that's why, like this question, you get 52, a number without I. Okay, same thing happens with the 19. What is the meaning when you have this square? So that means you have to duplicate twice. So when you have 3 minus 2i squared, this square is the same thing as multiply by 3 minus 2i. And you just FOIL it out. Okay, so I just leave that question 19 to you. So you just need to FOIL this one out. And again, don't forget to change all your I squared become -1. The last one that we're gonna do here is number 20. This is very difficult. Okay, so so what we do here is we're gonna square both of them. So 5 minus 4i squared. So you have to FOIL it out. 5 minus 4i times. And then you have to minus, also you have to square 5 plus 4i squared, which is 5 plus 4i plus times with 5 plus 4i. So what you need to do is you FOIL this below out first. So first one is 5 times 5 is 25. And then 5 times -4 is -20i. And then -4i times 5 is also -20i. And then -4i times -4i is positive 16i squared. And as we know that I squared is a -1. So this will give me -16. Okay, so 16 times -1 is -16. So now what you do is combine like terms. So we got 25, take away 16. So that will give us 9. And then these two terms is -40i. Okay, so this is how we do the first FOILing. Now the next FOILing, I do not need to do a lot of work on it because it's exactly the same as the first FOIL that we have. The only difference here is instead of minus here, this one will become plus. So that's what happens when you do the second one is it's the same thing. So what you have in this case, when you FOIL this figure out, it's going to be 9 plus 40i. So everything is the same except you have pluses on that case. But do not forget you have a minus sign in the middle. So this negative you have to distribute to the 9 and distribute to the 40. So what you have in this case is a negative 9 minus 40i. And the 9 and the negative 9 combined becomes 0. So you don't have that. And then this will give you negative 80i. 40i minus 40i is 8 negative. So this is how we do this question number 20 here. So make sure it's a bit more difficult. It's not easy, as I told you. So so make sure you guys know how to do that. Okay. Next is 22. Question 22 is given us by 4 plus 3i. They want you to figure out what is the conjugate of this. Okay. So in order for us to find the conjugate, the negative 4 still remain as negative 4, but your 3i is a positive, it becomes negative 3i. So this is your conjugate for question number 22. And then what you do next is you multiply them. So you take the negative 4 plus 3 root 3i. Sorry, forget the root here. So root here. I. And then you multiply this with negative 4 minus root 3i. So this is part A, and then this is part B. So you have to multiply this. As I told you before, this is conjugate multiplying. So when you do the foiling, you do not need to do outside and inside. You just do the first and the last. So the first one is negative 4 times negative 4, which is 16. And then the last one is positive times negative is negative. Root 3 times root 3 is square root of 9, which will give us 3. And then I times I will give us I squared. And as we talk about it, I squared will become negative 1. And negative 3 times with negative 1 is a positive 3. So what we have is 16 plus 3. This will give me 19. So this is how we do the second part here. This is 19. Okay. This one, do you see? So what we did on question number 23 here is you have to break it down. So because there is a negative in the square root and 13, we cannot break it down. So this is actually is square of 13i. And then the question is asking us is what is the conjugate of this? So the conjugate of this is you change your sign because of I here. So you change all your sign for your I, opposite. So this is negative square root of 13i. Okay. Then what you need to do is you have to multiply these two. So root 13i times with negative root 13i. So what you have here is negative, positive times negative is negative. Root 13 times root 13 is 13. I times I is I squared, but I squared is negative 1. So negative 13 times negative 1 is 13. So this is how we write your answer in this case. This is 13. Okay. So we did addition, subtraction, multiplication. Now we do division. So when you divide, you will have to do what we call as rationalize your denominator. Okay. So I'm going to, some of you, I think you guys did it before in chapter P4. So I'm going to teach you how to rationalize again. So like question number 24 is you got negative 14 over 2i. So what we have here is your I in your denominator. So what do? Is I multiply by I over I. This is what we call as rationalize your denominator. So if you have one term, this is called one term in your denominator. So if you have one term in your denominator, we just multiply I on top and the bottom, rationalize it, okay? We'll talk about two terms later on, like question 25. So like 24 and 26 are one term, you just multiply I on both them. But if you have two terms, like number 25, you have to do the conjugate. So what we have in this case is 2i squares on the bottom and 14i on the top. And as usual, all your I square is -1. So your answer in this, oh, I forgot the negative, right? There's a negative in front. So because there's a negative and a negative, so that the cancel become positive. So your answer in this case is 14i over 2 because the negative will cancel. But as you know that 14 can goes into 2, so your answer in this case is 7i. Okay, so this is how we do this. If they have what we call as one term in your denominator, we rationalize it. So how do we do 25 if you have two terms in your denominator? 10 minus 15i divided by 1 minus 2i. So if you have two terms in your denominator, so we also need to multiply to rationalize it. And how do we rationalize if you have two terms in your denominator here is you have to multiply by the conjugate. Okay. Which conjugate we are talking about, the top one or the bottom one? We are always talking about the conjugate on the bottom one. And the conjugate in this case, change your sign. So 1 minus 2i become 1 plus 2i. Then this is 1 plus 2i. So what you need to do here is the top one you have to FOIL. So you have to FOIL the top one. This times this, you FOIL out. So 10 times 1 is 10. 10 times 2i is positive 20i. And then negative 15i times 1 is negative 15i. And then negative 15i times 2i is negative 30i squared. And then this I squared, as I told you, it become -1. So that makes this 30. So like foiling up. And what we did to do next is we combine like terms. So 10 here and 30 is like terms. So you get 40. And then these two are like terms, become plus 5i. So this is how we do the top one. We haven't finished yet. This is just for the top one. Now for the bottom one is a little bit special. You do also FOIL these two up together. But the good news is because they are conjugate, so the outside and the inside you don't need to do it. So you just need to do the first and the last. So first is 1 times 1, which is 1. Then last is negative 2i with a positive 2i. This is negative 4i squared. And then this I squared will give us -1. So this will give us a positive 4. Because negative 4 times -1 is positive 4. So 1 plus 4 in this case is 5. So your denominator in this case will become 5. And then this is what a lot of students will do in my test is they cancel. Oh, this 5 and this 5 cancel. So my answer in this case is 40 plus I, and this is wrong. Okay, so do not cancel like this. Same thing happens when you do in your quadratic formula. You end up something like this. Do not cancel like this. So what you need to do here is, anyone know what to do here? Anyone know what to do? When you get into here, this is not done yet. You know what to do to finish this follow-up. Yes, divide by 5 each of them. You're correct, Devin. So you take 40 divided by 5 plus 5i divided by 5. Yes, this is what you do. And your answer in this case is 40 divided by 5 is 8. And then 5i divided by 5 is I. So your answer in this case is 8 plus I. So this is how we do question number 25, which is a lot of work. You can tell that when you have two terms, your work is more than one term. Okay. And then we will talk about question number 27. Now, every time, if you remember how we multiply square root, you just take root 3 times root 7, you just multiply them up, become root 21, right? So this is something that I want to point out to you guys. Don't do this, okay? Otherwise, you get it wrong. For question number 27, a lot of students will do like that, -7 times -14. So what they do is they just multiply negative 7 with negative 14 together. That will become 7 times 14, 98. Negative times negative is positive. This is wrong. Don't do this. This is so wrong that I would not recommend you to do it. So, so don't do what I just showed to you just now. Otherwise, in the test, you get 0. Okay. So what we do here to do this question correctly for number 27 is you have to do the negative first. So all this negative, you have to make it become I first. So what we have in this case is you will get root 7i times with root 14i. So now you have I times I, which is I squared. And then you got root of 98. Now we know that I squared is a negative 1. Now we have to break 98 down. Now, if you see that it's a 7 and 14, we know that it goes well with 49 because 7 and 7 is 49. So this is actually 49 times 2. And 49 is a perfect square of 7. So this answer will become negative 7 square root of 2. So the 2 is outside. So for so what I want to tell you here on this kind of questions, when you see a square of root and square root, don't multiply it like what we did in normal radical, normal square root. What you need to do is you have to change to I form first before you multiply them. Okay, same thing happens with 28. You just need to change the I form. Now, the rest of the question here, 29, 30, 31, you have to use a quadratic formula to solve this. When you use your quadratic formula to solve it, you end up with an I form. Okay, I'll do 29 and 31 because 31 is fraction, it's tough. So we'll do an easy one and then do a very tough one. So for this question, it's already in the standard form and make it equal to 0 already. So we can use your quadratic formula to solve this. So your A in this case is 1, B is 6, and C is 10. So negative B, negative 6, plus minus B squared, which is 36, minus 4AC, 4 times A. The good news is A is 1, so I can skip it. And C in this case is 10, all over by 2A. In this case, again, A is 1, so you get 2. So this gives me 36 minus 40. This is negative 4. So you find out that this one has a square of negative 4. So this negative will become I, and the 4 become 2. So this is actually is negative 6 plus minus 2i over 2. And like previously, like what Devin told me, you don't want to put 2 over here. So what do I do in this case is I break it into 2 separately. Okay. So your answer in this case is negative 3. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Plus minus I. And as you guys know that your online homework doesn't like plus minus, so you have to write your answer twice. Okay. You guys all right here so far with 29 questions? Question 29. I ran offline. Hello, you guys there? You guys are there. Okay. So you guys all right here with this? Yep. So this is easy. As I told you, 29 is easy. The only different part in this case is when you guys use your quadratic formula in this question, you came out with a negative answer here. Last time is all positive, and make sure you put it in a complex form. Okay. Next is the last question that we're going to do here in this class is 31. Is fraction. Okay. So if you got these kind of questions in your homework or your final, in your test, please do not use fractions as your ABC. Yes, you can do it. I can say yes, you can do your fractions as your ABC. Like here, your A can be 7/8, B is negative 3/4, and C is 5/16. You can use it, plug it in your formula, but you're gonna make yourself crying after that because everything you plug in is all a fraction. And if you like fractions, be my guest. So what do I do here is I want to get rid of my fractions here. So I find LCD first. So does anyone know what's the LCD for 8, 4, and 16? So what number goes into 8, 4, and 16? Bigger than 4. It has a big number. 16 cannot go into 4. LCD, all this number, 32 is good. All this 8 can go into 32. 4 can go into 32, 16. But 16 is the best one because it is smaller. So I use 16. So if you use 32, Devin, you will get your ABC is bigger than 16. Okay. So as usual, I want to make all this as 16, so I multiply them. So this one I need to multiply by 2 because I get 16. This one I need to get multiplied by 4 to get 16. This one, the last one, I didn't do anything because it's 16. So what do I do is I multiply everything here by your LCD 16. And what do you notice is all this denominator will cancel out with 16. And we know 16 times 0 is still 0. So what we have in this case is 14x squared minus 12x plus 5 equals to 0. So your icky fraction equations that you have on number 31, it changed it to become like a normal equation. So now we can use no fraction. So now we can use a quadratic formula to solve this. So negative b, so this is negative 12. So negative and negative become positive 12. Plus minus square of 12 is 144. 12 times 12 is 144. Minus 4 times a, which is 14. C in this case is 5. And all over by 2a, 2 times 14. I think 2 times 14 is 28. So now what you need to do is take out the calculator and figure out what is this number is. So 144 minus 4 times 14 times 5. So this is negative 136. This is negative square root of negative 136. And as basic thing, as for today's class that you learn, if you see a negative, this will become I. So now what I need to do is I need to break this 36 down, 136. So imagine this is already 136 if you use an LCD of 16. So if Devin, if you use a 32, this number is going to be like 500 something. It's going to be big number. So that's the reason why I try to use a smaller one. Let me see, figure out what number can go to 136 here. Let's see if 4 can goes in there. I think 4 can, 4 goes in there. So 4 will goes in there to become 34, yep. Yep, very good. And so this has become 12 plus minus 4 is a perfect square of 2, 2i, square root of 34, all over by 28. And we're not done yet. We need to reduce this. Magida, very good. You got it right. So how do we reduce this is we can break it down like last time. So instead of doing 28, we break it down 28 here. So 12 goes to 28. I think 12 and 28 cannot be divided because the number is too small up here. So I think you can reduce by 4, right? So 12 reduced by 4 is 3 over 7. Plus minus, this can be reduced by 2. 28 can reduce by 2. So it becomes I square root of 34 over by 14. Because the 2 is cancel out, when 2 divided by 2 is 1, you can cancel out. This becomes 14. So this is your answer for question number 31. And I know it's really hard. Yes, this is 31 is the hardest one that you can get. I will try my best not to give you a very big square root in your tests, in your finals. 100, I think 136 of them. I mean, they are very obvious. I won't give you 1,360 in your test. No, you will cry. I will cry too if I do this. So I'll give you a smaller number in this case, right? So yep, that is the answer here. So that's it for today. Does anyone have any questions here? And yes, I'll post this in YouTube so you can watch it. Anyone here has any questions for me before we end the Zoom class today? Anyone have any questions for me? Let me stop recording.